The cover relationship between Hawk Fuller and Tim Laughlin in a 1950s Washington, D.C. beset by the Red and Lavender Scare, is continued in Fellow Travelers Episode 3. The U.S. State Department stepped up efforts in the early 1950s to find and remove all subversives and deviants from the federal government, led by Senator Joseph McCarthy, Roy Cohn, and David Schein. Although they are fictional characters, Hawk and Tim stand in for the severe measures that LGBTQ+ individuals who were employed by the U.S. government at the time were compelled to take in order to protect their sexual identities. The Lavender Scare and the real objectives of Roy Cohn, the chairman of the Subcommittee of Investigations, who was mostly in charge of the Rosenberg killings, began to come to light in Fellow Travelers Episode 2. The newest information revealed in the third episode of Fellow Travelers suggests that Cohn and McCarthy may be secretive gay men, which makes their campaign for LGBTQ+ rights a highly ironic and unsettling national issue. The real-world Cohn denied ever having HIV for his whole life, but it was later discovered that he was gay. He passed away in 1986 from problems related to AIDS. In a flashback scene from the third episode of Fellow Travelers, set in San Francisco in 1986, Tim tells Hawk that he has a rare kind of cancer called Kaposi sarcoma. Tim says that his body's lesions are a clear sign that his time is limited, particularly considering that he was previously diagnosed with PCP, a condition that weakens the immune systems of those who have HIV/AIDS. Hawk hides in the bathroom when he hears this news, expressing in silence his grief at having to part with Tim, who has rightly grown resentful and angry at the world due to his major medical problems. Frankie eventually succeeds in pursuing a romantic relationship with Marcus in the Cozy Corner bar after making multiple approaches on him. Marcus acknowledges that he normally prefers other kinds of men, and he tells Frankie that he has no regrets about it. In different ways, Marcus and Frankie are also shameless about their sexual orientations. However, because he is not constantly surrounded by federal government personnel like Marcus is, Frankie is less anxious about the repercussions of his sexual orientation during the McCarthy era of the 1950s. Marcus declines Frankie's invitation to attend a drag event where he will be performing because he is worried about the venue's racial overtones. At the end of the second episode of Fellow Travelers, Marcus gave Senator Robert Kennedy information indicating that David Schein's 4F military classification was questionable. Schein's military status was upgraded from 4F, unfit for duty, to 1A, able to serve, following additional inquiry. In light of this, Schein would be obligated by law to enlist in the American military if called upon, just like any other registered member, regardless of social standing or financial means. In the third episode of Fellow Travelers, Cohn makes an inept attempt to exert pressure on a U.S. Major General to safeguard Schein, implying that he may be harboring some sort of hidden agenda. Tim accepts Hawk's impromptu invitation, albeit grudgingly and sincerely, to spend the weekend at the seaside in New York. Tim is unaware that Hawk is also there to conduct business and gather information regarding Senator Joseph McCarthy. Hawk meets with Daniel Cherney through his military connections. Cherney has information that Hawk, Senator Smith, or Marcus could be able to utilize to finally bring down McCarthy. After Hawk leaves, Tim is approached by another man in the bar, but he pushes him away and goes in search of Hawk. Unaware that Hawk had been gathering evidence against his boss, Tim discovers Hawk in a motel room and quickly leaves. Marcus accepts Frankie's invitation to the drag show in a classy but mostly white restaurant. Due to an issue with the seating list, he is originally denied entry and must wait outside for a considerable amount of time. Marcus eventually runs out of patience and wonders why it's taking so long. Marcus is informed by the restaurant host that although he was on the list, there is a problem with overbooking, and he cannot be accommodated. Frankie enters the scene to defuse the confrontation after Marcus recognizes the true nature of the event and calls the host out for segregation. Frankie stands up for Marcus, who refuses assistance since it would cast him a negative light in the eyes of the public. Tim insists that they go out on a formal dinner date, something they have never been able to do in D.C., after Hawk clarifies that he was just in the hotel room for business. Tim poses as Hawk's nephew with the intention of having fun tonight without having to think too hard about keeping things a secret. Hawk finds it cute that Tim becomes wasted and sings for a couple at the next table over, but he also worries that they are attracting too much attention. After witnessing the couple's kiss, Tim becomes enraged and forces Hawk to step in for him at the dinner table, because he and Hawk do not have the luxury of publicly embracing like that. Tim learns from Hawk how his World War II experience left a scar on his bar. He describes how, while leading a group of 4 men in Italy, they were ambushed and imprisoned by 2 enemy artillery pieces known as Krabs K5s. Hawk laments that 2 of his comrades did not survive that ordeal as he recounts the heartbreaking story of how he almost died that day and was fortunate to escape with only a scar. Tim, who is still quite young, is amazed by Hawk's bravery and is grateful that he has never been compelled to fight like Hawk has. After concluding his transaction with Daniel Cherney, Hawk learns of Senator Joseph McCarthy's alleged involvement in gay activities and possible sexual assault. Cherney offers Hawk a signed letter detailing the incidents and a photo proving they had met, accusing McCarthy of sodomizing him when he was intoxicated. In fact, a real-life letter claiming that McCarthy had approached the young Army veteran at a bar and sexually abused him in 1952 was written about McCarthy. In Fellow Travelers Episode 4, Hawk will probably present the information to his mentor Senator Smith or his dependable ally Marcus Gaines. When rumors started to spread in 1953 regarding the peculiar nature of McCarthy, Cohen, and Shine's mutual bachelor status, McCarthy wed a researcher who was employed in his office. McCarthy married Jane Kerr suddenly, and it seemed as though he didn't know her well outside of their business relationship. Seen as a reaction to the concerns surrounding McCarthy, who was fighting communism and subversives, yet was not a family man, the reckless behavior seemed to be a cover-up. McCarthy managed to persuade Kerr to marry him at the height of the Red and Lavender scares, ostensibly to boost his reputation. In the 1986 portions, Tim advises Hawk to get tested for HIV/AIDS because of their past love relationship. It's unclear when Hawk and Tim were last shown having sex after 3 episodes of Fellow Travelers. It is also revealed that despite being a successful family man with a wife, kids, and grandchildren, Hawk had continued to have sex with other men. It seems that Hawk remained the same during their decades-long friendship with Tim, rejecting his true sexual identity in the 1960s and 1970s, the eras that will serve as the backdrop for upcoming episodes of Fellow Travelers.